let's create this application. So I already have created that application, so I'll go into my instance and then I'll open up those applications and show you, the information that I have there. Okay, and show you how we configure that application. Now, to do that, the application that I'm talking about is this marketing event application. So if you go in here, you will see I have three modules, right? So three modules here. One is attendee modules. When I open the attendee modules, I get, record from the attendee module here, right? When I go to equipment request, I see records from the equipment request, which means that it is a different table. It's some other table where I have this data recorded. Marketing event is another table where I am storing information about the different marketing events that my organization is arranging for different partners or different my own organization, right? Now to create this, I had to go into the applications system applications, and then I went into the applications area. Somebody dropped. Anand, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, looks like Kumaran is off. Anyway, so I had to go into the applications area, and within the applications area, I went ahead and created a new application from scratch, right? So you can go ahead and create a new application from scratch, right? We will see other application, custom applications, etc. These options as well. So this one that I have created, I created it from scratch. So this gave me a blank slate, and then I went ahead and created all the components which is required to build this application. Now, first of all, when I have to create this application, first of all, you will start with the data modeling. You will start to create the database and tables related to that application. Exactly, this is what I did, right? I went ahead and I, against the marketing events attendee module, what I did is I created a table into the application editor, the studio, and the table contains email, first name, last name, and marketing event as fields into that. So if you look into the attendees table, you will see that I have this first name created, the last name created, marketing event created. So these three and one more field, um, email, right? So email is also created here. So four fields were created by me, and string type, string type, and the reference type. Reference type, because when I create this attendee record, I want to associate this user, I want to register this user to a particular marketing event, right? That's why I have to refer to the marketing event table. So I have a reference field here, which will open up the marketing events pop-up window for me, and then I can go ahead and select whatever marketing event I want to register this user for. Okay. Now, so I went into the tables area, created this attendee tables, associated this module to marketing event. So I created module, associated it to marketing event, right? This name popped up automatically. I went ahead and created these columns here. Controls, I left it as usual. I did not change anything. If you go and see here, when I created this table, it also created a user role for me, right? This user role is for access control security rules, right? So you can go ahead and pick this user role and play with it. Like, you can give read write permissions on this user role as and when required, right? Right now, when this user role was created, it might have, all read write roles onto this user role, right? So I left it default. So this user role was created automatically. Then I go into the application access, and now I left it default as well. But then you have options of can read, can create, update, delete options available here. Allow access to this table via web services. This is a checkbox available which makes sure that the table records that you have into the attendee tables is exposed using web services or not, right? Now, why I'm saying that, so there is a feature available in ServiceNow when when you pick a table name, hang on, I did something wrong. So if you pick a table name here, for example, I do attendee.do, and wait a second, I think it's incident. I forgot the structure of the URL, so I'll quickly get it. So you can basically expose your tables that you create here to, as form of WSDL files, so which you can utilize in custom application. Oh, not this one. Incident. I think it's incident.to and then WSDL. Yes. So this is if I go back here, so you have allow access to this table via web services, right? Now what we do is, if you check this one, you are enabling this property on the table using which you can expose this table to be used via web services, right? So on this incident table, I have this WSDL property enabled, this allow access to table via web services property enabled. So that's why what I can do is, when I, of course you need an access to the instance. When I have this access to this instance, I go to the base URL of the instance, then I put incident.to or the table name.to followed by a query string of WSDL. So I can see the WSDL structure of the table itself that can be consumed into any let's say any custom application like the .NET application. You can consume it, right? And then you can pass through that. So it will show you all the field values that you have onto the incident table. It will show you all, you know, acceptable methods that you have, like, the get response method that you have onto that, the get record method. So these are the web methods that you can use: get a record response, update, update response, right? Or all other methods which are available to play with that WSDL file, like delete multiple, insert response, etc. So these are the options available. So the thing is, when you are allowing this, allow access to this table via web service, you can, you are allowing basically to be used it through web services into third-party application.
Hello, Rahul. I can't hear your voice.
Oh, all right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, Rahul.
All right. Sorry. I think I kept myself on mute and then kept talking. So I think what I was telling is, um, having this allow access to this table via web services checkbox ticked means that you are allowing the user to access the WSDL structure of the table so that he can he can integrate with this table using a web services. So based web service, or using web WSDL, right? So see here, if I was doing it for incident table, where I did incident table name dot do followed by the question mark and WSDL. So what it does, it shows me the WSDL structure for the incident table, shows me all the table fields that I have for the incident table here, and all the properties, all the methods which are allowed available, web methods available on this incident table, right? You can see the get response method is available here, get records is available, get record response is available, delete, insert, all those operations which we have to do on the incident table are available here. Update response, insert, right? And then it also shows you the input output structure of what you have to input and what you will get as a response when you use these methods, right? So by having this checkbox ticked, allow access to this table via web services, you are allowing um, your table to be accessed using web services. So you are basically exposing this table. You can use this table using web services. That's what you are doing, right? For example, if I have allowed this, I'm copying this table name. So we just saw it for the incident table, right? Now if I go and put this table name here, the attendees table name dot do question mark WSDL, and remember we have allowed that checkbox here on the table configuration area here. Now in this pane I have allow access to this table via web services. Now I'm going to hit this WSDL file and I get this structure of the table plus all the methods, web methods available here, right? Now if I uncheck this, if I do not allow this and I update this, let's see what it does. So if I go back and I refresh the page by doing the same WSDL, so it says user not authorized, meaning this table you cannot use the WSDL. This table is not exposed to be used as a web services item, right? So that's why you may try to, so if you are building this application and you want to interface this application with some third-party application at a later point, so you want it to be exposed to the other applications, so you will allow that checkbox so that this table can be exposed as a WSDL file and can be utilized with third-party application. That's what I'm saying. All right. Now, when you save this table record here, you will see that within access control related list, these items will be created depending upon what access controls you have created. I have kept the default one so I can see the default operations coming in. Default operation for create, delete, read, and write. And this is applicable on the table here and applicable on the record type. There could be, the type could be record, or the type could be, let me see, there could be, it is not allowing me. Apart from record, it will be on the table level as well, right? But in this view, we are already talking about the table level. So on the table level, it is talking about the records that we are playing with. So these
How you created that access control?
this gets created automatically because we you know we have it here in the application access. You have these checkboxes. If you update it,
Okay.
you go back, these records, I did not create it forcefully. It was created along with the table that will follow the instructions that you provided to it while creating these tables. So access controls will by default be created automatically, but then you can tweak it. You can change the operations, you can change the type of it, right, by going into the access control editor. And here we have limited activity that we can do. Yeah, so this gets created automatically. However, you can change it by going into the access control, individual access control list, and then playing with it. I'm probably into not in the correct scope, so I'm not able to do that right now. Well, we will come to the access control one more time. We will discuss the access controls by default, access controls one more time in detail. Right now, let's focus on the tables that we have created. Now, we have the table created for attendees. When the table is created for attendees, I now have to see how I want to present the UI to the user. Right? So let's go and find out the attendee form here. So on the on the forms and UI, I clicked on the attendees UI here, the attendees form here, and when I click on it, I see this form designer window with the 4 fields from the table coming in. The 4 custom columns that I created here, the 4 fields, those fields get displayed here by default. Now, but this also gives you other fields available, like the create, created by, update, updated by, update. So these are the default columns from the table. You have these columns available here as well. Now, if I do created and created by here, so it's very intuitive and simple. Drag down option is available here, so you can drag and drop these items from the left section to this section and save it. And after getting saved, it will be reflected on the form itself. So if I go to the attendees new form, I'll see that the created and created by fields have come up here because I added it on the form designer, right? So as many fields that you want to bring here, you can bring and save it. Go back, reload, and you will see that those fields are coming in, right? Now, if you have to put a section here and you want to bring these into this different section, for example, I save it as timing, right? So it will appear as a different section on the form. I can go and reload it to see the timing section coming in, right? And this section are collapsible, so you can use this, right? Now you can see there's activity formatters. We have to talk about these activity formatters somehow. So we'll talk about this later, activity formatters, what these formatters can do for you. Right now, I'm not talking about it with a purpose. So you are able to now design the form. Now when you expose this form to the user will be able to fill in these information, and when you fill in these information and submit it, the record goes into the attendee table that you have created and gets stored, right? So you have the form created, you have the table created. Now let's say that you want to put a validation on this form, meaning if you submit this record, right now I can submit it, I can submit an empty record into this table. But what if you do not want to submit this, this record if there is no value, no real value supplied to it, right? Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. For that, we will use something known as UI policy. Hang on, it will go into you can go ahead and hit this create new application file, and then you can choose the UI policy from here, right? When I hit this create new application file, it opens up with all the options that are available to be able to do this application development. Click on this. Now I know that I need to create a UI policy, so I am going to use UI policy from here. I choose this UI policy. Now it is asking for several information that I need to fill in before I create this UI policy. Let's discuss about this UI policy, what it can do. UI policies change fields on form based on a set of conditions, right? So basically, if you want to put a condition on the field that, on the form that the first name should not be empty, it should always be mandatory, it should be visible, it should be read only. So these kind of properties, if you want to set, use UI policies. This is out of the box solution provided to you that you can that you can use. By default, by definition, UI policies change fields on a form based on a set of conditions. Use UI policies to show or hide fields or to make fields mandatory or read only based on these conditions, right? A UI policy specifies one or more actions to take when the policy is triggered. For example, if you want to submit the form and you want to check that the first name should not be empty, right? You can use this UI policy. Now, you also want to do if first name is empty but last name is also first name is filled but last name is not filled, which is empty. You can click, you can use this UI policy to get that validation done. So stuff like that. If first name and last name are filled and the email field is not visible, show a message to the user that the email field is not visible. You have to show it something like that, right? So
So this UI policies fire when you send a data to the server. I mean,
yes,
on click
when
on
you
submit button.
see, this is basically JavaScript validation, client-side validation kind of stuff. For example, if you are
Okay.
building a web page and you try to validate things on the front end, that's the
Mm-hmm.
UI policy that we are talking about. The data will be
Okay.
sent when you are actually submitting, when the form is submitted. So, but since you are doing client-side validation, so this validation will
Mhm.
first check. If the validation is checked, if it passes the validation, then it will send the data to the server. So that will use the server-side development script or something like that.
Mm.
But from the front-end validation, if you want to do that, you are doing this UI policy for front-end development. Okay.
Yeah.
Now to do that, choose the table name that you want to apply this UI policy to. For example, I am using the add attendees table name here, right? Now, this is not the only way of using the UI policy. I am using this UI policy from this application studio. Somebody else can go here, right click on this gray area, do configure and go into UI policies. So both are equally good. You do it from here or you do it from here, right? Same options will be provided to you, although it looks different because of the interface that we have onto the studio, but the same thing is available here as well, right? Here, from here, since we went from the attendees form and now I'm clicking UI policies, so it is by default selecting the table on which this is getting applied because the scope was attendees right now. But here I had to choose the table name from the available list of tables, right? So same stuff. So you put your table name here, put a UI policy name, for example, validate fields, right? Now, when to apply? When do you want to apply this, right? If you do not supply a condition, it will be applied every time when you hit every time on load, you know, um, and this is going to be a global script, right? So basically, I'm not applying any condition here, but if you want to apply any condition, for example, um, if first name starts with Rahul or something, right? If you put this condition, this UI policy will only be applicable when the first name will have this Rahul keyword entered, right? So conditionally, you can put that too. I'm not going to do that conditionally right now. So I am going to, put the default ones as I have it. So I'm going to submit this for now. UI policy, validate first. Now I'm opening it again. I created this UI policy, but I didn't tell this policy what to do. I didn't supply any action to this policy at all, right? Meaning, I created this UI policy on this table, but what will this policy do actually? Is there any action that you provided to this policy? As of now, no, we didn't provide any action. So you have to go ahead and open up this UI policy, scroll down and use this UI policy action to create the actions that you want to create on the table, right? Now I create this UI policy action, right? The UI policy name is validate fields, table is attendees. It gives me the list of fields available on the form, okay? Email, first name and last name and marketing event. So I'm going to validate the first name. I chose the first name from here, from the field name select drop down, the drop down here, and I'm going to make it mandatory, yes, true, visible, yes, true, and read only, leave alone. I'm not going to make it read only. I'm going to submit this. So this is one action that I provided to this UI policy, which will be applicable to the form when we submit it. Now, with this one action, let's go back to the form and try to do what we were trying to do earlier. Now, when I open this form, you can see this star mark coming in, which shows that using that UI policy and this field name, you created a UI policy with a form action that will not allow you to submit this form until you fill up the first name field, right? You see that? It says the following mandatory fields are not filled, and the field name is first name, right? Every time you submit it, it will show you this message until you fill this information into the first name field, right? Now, the condition is, there is no condition actually. It is applicable every time I have this, this first name field valid, empty, right? Then I can kick this UI policy for me. Now, if you want to do it conditionally, this is what I was telling you when to apply. So, for example, if I do um, let's say last name is not validated, so I'm going to put last name contains or something, right? And I'm going to update this. Let's find out if this brings any impact or not. Alright, so it became invisible for me. Okay, something happened. Let me quickly go to UI policy. Alright, I'm going to change it to last name is empty just to make it valid. Hopefully this will work now. So if last name is valid, is empty, it will be mandatory. Let's try to submit it. Now when I submitted it, this allowed me to submit the record. Does it make any sense? It doesn't look like a good use case, but still, I wanted to see this first name is still validated, but the condition is this UI policy will only run when the last name is empty, right? Now I am going to put something into the last name field here, which invalidates our case of executing this UI policy, and now I can submit this. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So you can put conditional elements. For example, if you have certain flags on the form, using that you want to, validate or invalidate the data onto the form, then you can use that flag as a condition within the UI policy property. Right? I'm going to get rid of this property because this doesn't make much sense. Now, We validated one field, which is the first name. Now, what if I have to validate other fields as well? For example, if I have to validate last name, so I go into the UI policy action one more time, go into the field name, and I select last name, make it mandatory, make it visible, read only. I don't want to make it read only, so I'm going to submit it. Right? Um, for email, I have to do it one more time. I will go here, pick email, mandatory true, visible true, read only. I'm going to leave it. Right? If I have to do it for marketing events as well, so I'll go create new form action, policy action, select marketing event, true, true, read only false, read only leave alone. So I now have the four UI actions created for me, right? For last name, for marketing event, email, and first name. Right? Now you see that in the field name field here, you are getting the field name instead of field label, right? So programmatically, you will never work on the field labels. You will work on the field names as, only, right? That's the reason you are seeing the field names here: last name, marketing event, email, and first name, right? Now, here's the summary of the policy action that we created. Field name, mandatory true for all, visible true for all, and read only false for all. Leave alone for all. Right? Now I'm saving it, going back. And when I open this form, I'll see that all those four fields will now be mandatory with a star mark. Right? And to submit this form, it will ask me to submit all those four fields: marketing event, last name, first name, and email. Right? Now, this UI policy, you should all see. You can argue, why do I use this? Why cannot I write a script, a Java script to validate this? Yes, of course you can write a Java script to validate this, but using a client-side script to validate this thing only for mandatory read-only and visibility is not advisable, because that will become a high-cost item for you, because that will make your page slow. You should always consider using UI policy when you have to just do these three operations, meaning making mandatory, making visible true false, or making it read only or writable field. If you have to do just these three operations, use UI policy instead of using the client script, right? Client script is also available that you can use. The same stuff you can do by client script, but then you have to go on to the client script. You have to browse through the form object and read all the elements from the form. You will go onto the form, and let's say on submit of event, you will try to find out information like uh, first name, something like where f name equals, you will do gform dot get value, and then you will put the first underscore name, right? So you are putting a script here. You will get value from the form, put it into the variable, compare it to something, compare for for the length of the string that you generate using this, and then you check it for all those four variables, and then you submit, right? You validate and then you submit. So for sure, this is going to take more resources than the UI policy that you had here. UI policy is advisable to be used if you have to do only those three operations. If you have to, however, do any programmatic, other comparisons that you want to do. For example, if you want to do date comparison, you will have to use a client script. Although you will still have something available here into the UI policy that you can use. UI policy will also have a scripting section. Within UI policy, if you go here, hang on. if I create this new UI policy, um, within this UI policy, you have this script section available. So conditionally, you can put same sort of a script as well. For example, you can do e underscore form dot, and then you will get all those methods available here. So you can use those methods here as well, but then you have to wisely use what component should be used on what area for what operation, right? So if you do that, your loading of the page or submission of the page will be faster. So you have to use these components wisely, where to use what component, right? Am I making it clear? Can you get it?
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
All right.
Yes, Rahul. Yeah. Hey Rahul, can we stop? I mean, I have to take a hard stop.
Okay, you have a hard stop? All
Yeah.
right. All right, we can stop here and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah.